What's life after Ozempic? What do? You lost the weight. What do you do?
And the question is, how do we prevent that? How do we keep that from happening? I think that's a question that a lot of obesity medicine specialists, bariatric specialists are trying to tackle.
What questions can you ask your provider to help you stay on track? And what specifics? You talked about insulin earlier. So PCOS patients, if you are listening, like talk to us about what questions do you ask your provider?
With a little health and a little wealth and a lot of love, that's a life that we live. Suits and scrubs.
Hello, everybody! Hey! Welcome to another episode of Suits and Scrubs. We talk about a little bit of health.
A little bit of wealth.
And a lot of love. All right, join me is my beautiful wife and co-host, the gut, hormone, and weight loss doctor. Fun fact about Emily is she's wearing her glasses today.
I am.
So take it away, Em.
I wear the glasses most days while I'm working.
That's true.
Just not when I'm podcasting, apparently.
Yeah, I actually like it. It looks like a sexy librarian. I've always told her, I actually try to, if we ever go out and stuff, I'm like, hey, you should wear your glasses. So,
are we doing math today? That's the question.
No, we're not doing math today.
Let's hope not. Well, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Zachary SVP, our finance guy, and he will help you retire before 40. So tune into his wealth podcast if you haven't yet. Fun fact about him is that he is wearing his South Carolina hat. He's a South Carolina boy, born and raised.
Born and raised, cornbread fed.
Loves the Gamecocks. And I am a Bulldog fan myself, but we have made it work somehow.
It's funny. My dad told me that I can bring anyone else home I want, but not a Bulldog fan.
You stuck it to him, didn't you?
Yeah, but honestly, it's funny. He says that she's the prettiest Bulldog he's ever seen. So anyway, guys, today's episode, we got a good one for you. We talk about Ozempic, right? One of our trending videos now is Ozempic face, as well as we just got another one, another trending because of you. Thank you. Is life-saving advice, bootleg Ozempic, or the Ozempic craze. So what we wanted to do, since you guys like this topic, we want to stagger this a bit. And what's life after Ozempic? What do? You lost the weight. What do you do? So we are going to dive deeper into those topics based upon what Emily is going to allow us to talk about. Whoop, whoop.
I'm going to give you all the details.
All the details. And guys,
all the juicy secrets.
All the juicy secrets. If you stay at the end, Emily will also tell you how to navigate your healthcare provider. Let's say you're working with a healthcare provider, what questions to ask them, what tests that you can do, and ultimately to keep you on track. So
maybe what kind of healthcare provider to find.
Oh. All right. So if you stick with us, more to come. All right. As always, we do our two segments. Our first segment is the fan favorite, which is the Refactions. Refactions! I'm playing it now.
He inspired America by losing the most weight in the history of the hit show, The Biggest Loser. Danny Cahill lost an incredible 239 pounds in just 7 months.
I was thinking, it's over. Man, I'm normal now. You know what I mean?
That's it.
I lost 240 pounds, and now I can live a normal life like everybody else.
But this is Danny today. He's gained back 100 pounds. Turns out Danny's not the only Biggest Loser contestant to gain back weight. Doctors followed 14 contestants who appeared on the show in 2009 and incredibly determined that nearly all of them have struggled to keep off the weight.
Wow. So this is perfect for this episode. Mm-hmm. And you guys, we are Biggest Loser fans, but honestly, it's not about losing the weight. I think at Biggest Loser,
I would say we're big. We like Chris Powell. We like extreme weight loss.
Yeah. But we like transformation shows.
Yes.
But again, it's not about the number on the scale and losing weight. It's about being a better version of yourself. That's what we represent here. So first of all, if that alarms people, we're not those kind of people. We want to make sure you're a better version of yourself at any size, really. So yeah, you got to react to that. I had to put my own little, because we really do believe that, honestly.
Yeah. No, and I think it's interesting because we've done maybe a couple episodes where we respond, or where I respond to Jillian Michaels talking about how Ozempic or Wegovy or these weight loss medications, people gain the weight back. People gain the weight back after they stop the medication. And that's her big criticism of the medication. But if you haven't been watching Biggest Loser and some of these other kind of extreme weight loss shows, it's not just a trend with these weight loss medications. We see it just with weight loss in general. And so I think it's important to know the numbers and to know what you're up against when you're losing weight, just so that you're more vigilant about it and you know how to maintain the weight loss, because it's not just this medication. If you stop it, you gain the weight back. It's really anything, any method you use for weight loss, there's a potential for weight regain. And we will talk about that more.
Newsflash.
In this episode.
No, it's crazy you say that. And I'm starting to see a trend. So this Ozempic phase, which we did a whole episode on that. If you haven't seen it, check it out. This whole compound pharmacy and the Ozempic craze. If you can't get this weight loss medication, what should you do? So we're covering these topics. I'm seeing a trend where it doesn't matter. Like Ozempic is such a buzzword. And if you take Ozempic and replace it with weight loss, it's almost the same trend no matter what it is. It's interesting. That's just kind of like a light bulb just kind of went off when you were saying that.
Yeah, I think there's just this potential to demonize it right now, because there is this tie to med spas and aesthetics and the Kardashians and
vanity.
Celebrities and vanity. And I think that overshadows the positives of the medication. And so I'm just trying to give both sides of the story.
Yeah, but you take a stand, right? You take a stand, and we'll talk more about that as we kind of get into the episode. All right, our next segment is Under the Microscope.
Under the microscope. So, I guess we are mathing a little bit today. We're going to be talking about some specific statistics. And I think just starting off by talking about the obesity, I would say obesity crisis, the obesity, it technically at this point I think is a pandemic, but we'll talk about the epidemic, the effect on the US. By the year 2030, it is expected that half of the population will be obese. Half of our US population in just a few years will be obese, and 25% will have severe obesity. A fourth of our entire population.
And honestly, I believe it, because I think the availability of these ultra-processed foods, fast foods and things like that, is cheaper. It's more prevalent. They're making a ton of money. And it tastes really, really good. Like, listen, I love it too, but I only have it once a month now, if I really, really want it.
If that, we try to even eliminate it completely.
Right.
But really, and that's just obesity, if you consider people who are in that overweight range, so people who are outside of the normal, consider the normal BMI. And I know, and I'm not trying to pigeonhole people into being normal just based on BMI. I think it's just a vast generalization, or it's a way that we can kind of screen people, but 75% of the population at this point is either overweight or obese.
I'm obese. I think BMI is a toilet full of shit, to be honest with you. I do, because every time I do BMI, like I do it for work, and it helps me with my wellness dollars, and they code me as morbidly obese, and they'll call me, did you lose weight, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, if you see me, like, I'm not morbidly obese. Now, I'm definitely a lot heavier than I used to be. And I talk about this. I struggle with weight gain. I gained 65 pounds in COVID, right? In fact, actually, here's a picture of me. People don't believe that, but here's a very unflattering picture of me. Like and subscribe. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But no, and when I gained the weight, I wasn't healthy. I didn't feel good. And, but also I had been like 12% body fat, which I don't check that anymore. This is something you do in your 20s. Like if you're like a workout nut like me. But I used to feel like that and look like that. And now, I look like this, but I feel like I'm healthy now. I feel like I'm okay.
Well, I think a lot of us in our 20s, we realized that the bounce back was a lot easier. I mean, I remember the holidays were always a hard time. You would gain, like personally, I would gain weight during the holidays, and then I'd really start to get back on track in January. And within a few weeks, I felt like, oh, I'm back on track. I'm feeling good. I've lost a few pounds. And then you hit your 30s and mid 30s, especially. And as you get even higher than that, it's not that easy.
No, it sticks on.
Especially when you
I'm still carrying 10 pounds from 3 Christmases. It's like, go.
But you also, we've done kind of the Orange Theory Transformation Challenge, and you do the body composition. And so that you have a lot of muscle mass. And so some of that,
thanks for noticing,
some of that weight is muscle. And that's something that's something to know and to be aware of too, is that the BMI is only takes you so far. It just will tell you measurements based on your weight and your height.
Right.
But
the reason why I bring up, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the reason why I bring up BMI is because I know a lot of people from the PCOS community and the crunchy community, like listen, guys, I'm in the same boat too. Like my BMI is high, and it's been like that my entire life, except when I'm like 6'6", 6'7", 190 pounds, and they said that was normal, and I was like this big around. So I understand like the BMI. So I just don't want that to like shock people or whatever, because
it's supposed to be
sensitive.
it's supposed to be more of a screening tool. It's not an end all be all for sure,
which you don't believe in anyway. Yeah.
And so, I went to school, at least initially at the University of Florida, and I was there whenever Tim Tebow was there. And I say this all the time, that our nutritionist would always say,
crush,
would say that Tim Tebow's BMI was in the obese, or maybe even at that point, morbidly obese range, because he had such a high had so much muscle mass. And so his weight was high because he had more muscle. And so he technically was metabolically fit and metabolically healthy. And so you can't just go based on the BMI. Right. That was a long roundabout way of saying, like, BMI is a screening tool, but should not be.
She just likes to drop Tim Tebow.
The end all be all.
Oh, I used to be in the same college as Tim Tebow. Anything else you want to say about in the microscope?
Yes. We just got part of the
BMI is a trigger for me. If BMI is a trigger for you guys, drop us a comment and a like. I'm going to hear from y'all.
I know it is. I know it's a trigger for you. So, and it is for a lot of people. And
it is.
I think it's good to know that you shouldn't focus so much on the number. It should be your metabolic health. And that kind of takes us into the segue to some of my other statistics for Under the Microscope. But I want to just point out the percentages of weight regain, not just with using medications, but also other ways where we lose weight. So lifestyle interventions in general. There are a lot of studies that show that people after lifestyle interventions gain all the weight back, or a huge percentage of it. And so
lifestyle interventions.
So exercise, diet and exercise. So not medications, not surgery, the following specific diets, doing an intensive kind of lifestyle reboot where you're focusing on changing lifestyle to lose weight. And so people will lose the weight, and then a meta-analysis showed that on average, the people who kind of following along years after the lifestyle interventions, they stayed within about 3% of their initial body weight. And so they gained weight back. They still stayed below their starting weight, but it was only within 3%. So basically gained the majority of the weight back after weight loss. And then you talk about bariatric surgery and the potential for weight regain after having surgery like that. And it differs. It's hard to kind of pinpoint specific statistics, but with bariatric surgery, 10 to 20% of people who initially have bariatric surgery end up having to go back under the knife and have some sort of revision.
Well, Tammy's sister, like we're a big 1,000-pound sister on the show, and Tammy's sister is going back for the second time, I believe, just to, get that weight loss. I mean, it's harder. And the thing is, it's crazy is, what you did in your 20s, you can't do in your 30s. But guess what? What you did in your 30s, you cannot do in your 40s. And it gets harder and harder. Like we were talking to your parents about this, and I was shocked about their dietary. I mean, they're very fit people and relatively in shape for their age, like 60, your dad's 70, right? And so, and their dietary, like very, very strict with what they eat or whatever. It kind of sucks, man. It makes you just like relish the days. I was talking to my sister's boyfriend about this, and he just got McDonald's, and the dude's pretty like fit or whatever. I was like, you wait until you're 35, 30, whatever my age is. You know,
it's going to pack on.
You cannot be eating McDonald's on a whimsical Friday. You can't do that. And I miss that. I miss like doing that. But either way.
But the other thing that I'd mentioned too, and we talked about BMI being what a lot of us follow to put people into buckets, but there's this new term called skinny fat, which kind of depicts people who are metabolically, that they have fat basically around their organs, but they might have a completely normal BMI. They might be a normal weight, but they are metabolically unhealthy. And there are a lot of different studies out now, and it depends on the study, but at UNC Chapel Hill, they did a study that showed only 12% of Americans are thought to be metabolically healthy. 12% of Americans.
And I bet you other countries is higher, because a lot of other countries, that's the thing though, like I understand America's unhealthy. We know this at this point, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, America is so spread out where other countries are not. And part of their culture is to move and walk and exercise and all that. But American culture is not really like that. Mm-hmm. It really isn't. And so, you have to look at the culture. Like if we weren't so spread out, I don't think we'd be that way. If we were like Japan or Korea or I just say that because I just been there, London or England or whatever, I feel like it's more spread out. It's very common for people to walk a few miles before going to a grocery store and carrying those groceries home. There's like 70, 80-year-olds. Like, and this is in my network that I know. Like this is very common.
And it's also that American lifestyle of instant gratification or high stress, constantly moving and just convenience, eating out of convenience and just working yourself to the bone.
Right. Which I guess we're victims of that too.
Yes.
All right. So the first question I have for you, thank you for walking through the stats. First question is, okay, so you take these medications, you've lost the weight, now what?
Yeah, so specifically talking about the injectable medications.
So Ozempic changed my life. Now what?
There are a couple different, honestly, paths that you can follow. And I won't say that one specifically is the right path, but I will talk about some more numbers. There is an extension of the step 1 trial, which was one of the initial trials for specifically semaglutide, which the brand name's Ozempic and Wegovy, but Wegovy is the brand name for weight loss. Ozempic is more for diabetes management. And so they followed these people on semaglutide for 68 weeks. And there was a steady weight loss. There was a significant weight loss. And then at 68 weeks, they stopped the medication, and then they followed them until week 120 to see what was the trajectory, what was going to happen after they stopped that medication. And not at a surprise, they gained pretty much all of the weight back, almost all of the weight back.
Jesus.
And there were some lasting metabolic improvements, but a lot of those other endpoints that improved with the Wegovy, with the semaglutide, things like cardiometabolic health, cholesterol, the sleep apnea, the things that go along with weight loss, those I think resisted it for a little while, but those started to come back too with the trial, the longer people were off of this medication. And so I think it shows that the medication is certainly helpful, but the trends are going to follow our typical trends that we see with weight loss in general, that there's that potential for weight regain. And so what do you do next? And so you can continue the medication. It's been tested for long-term use. We have diabetic patients that take it specifically for blood sugar management and take it as a chronic medication. And so there's always that option to continue. But I think just the socioeconomic landscape that we're in right now, where it is so hard to find these medications, especially the brand name medications, insurance may or may not cover it.
Which we did a whole episode on this, by the way.
Mm-hmm. And if insurance covers it, you might not be able to find it in pharmacies. And if insurance doesn't cover it, the out-of-pocket cost is just insane for certain people. It's not sustainable. And so I think the logical decision for a lot of people is to come off of the medication. And so I don't think stopping cold turkey, kind of like what they did in the step 1 extension research study, I don't think that's necessarily the best option. I think for me, I prefer to wean people off of the medication. And so at least that way you're keeping a kind of a handle on what's going on. You're slowly weaning down. You're seeing, are we having a rebound in cravings? Are we having a rebound in food noise? Is the weight starting to trend up again? And then maybe it's time to maybe bump you up to the dose that you were on before that was helping keep a handle on things. And it just gives, I think, a better opportunity to continue to educate about lifestyle and continue to see what the barriers are. Why are you having problems with weight regain? It just, I think it gives us a little better handle on how to manage the aftermath.
Yeah. I almost feel like, I'm just going on a limb here. I almost feel like that when you're on these medications, and I'm just saying if all variables are equal, I'm not saying if you have a food addiction, I'm not saying if you have PCOS, I'm not saying, these other things. I'm thinking just like a normal scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is created differently. So everyone's treatment should be differently. Like we talked about this off camera, was just like precision medicine, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I digress. But what's interesting about this is most people gain the weight back. So if folks don't really start making changes as they're on the medicine now, more exercise, maybe walking 30 minutes after, whatever it is, like they're going to gain the weight back.
Yeah.
So that's the whole paradigm shift a bit. You can't go back to the eating habits that you have, right? Especially as you get older, because we all know, you need less calories as you get older. That's just a proven fact.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it also shows it's not just a matter of lifestyle. I think it's certainly important to change your lifestyle with these medications. They should not be the magic bullet. It should be a tool that you use. You should also be implementing changes that improve your diet, improve your physical activity, but there are also a lot of changes that the body goes under, specifically hormonal changes when you lose weight, where it's not just a matter of willpower. And I think that's the biggest thing to take home, is that it's not a person's fault that they gain the weight back after. It's not a matter of them not being diligent and them just giving up. I think it's your body biochemically working against you.
Did y'all hear that? Okay. So let's just pause on that, because that is so important, because a lot of people, they get a lot of slack for this, right? I was today years old. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina is where we're filming. What day were you when you learned about this? Your body is fighting against you when you lose weight. It's proven, like it's happening right now with me. And I'm not going to make it about me, but like I'm trying to get to a certain number, which I know you're not supposed to be a number on the scale. Like we're all guilty of it. Like right now I'm guilty of it, but it's happening. So
yeah, when you lose 10% of your body weight,
there it is.
Your body starts to change in a hormonal or biochemical way, so that your brain tells you it's time to slow the metabolism down. It's time to increase your hunger hormones so that you gain weight back, so that you get back to your prior set point that you were at before. And it's more, I would say, leptin is probably a bigger hormone, because your fat cells are what produce leptin. And so if you think about it, if your fat cells are less, or if your fat cells are smaller, there's less leptin. So it's less, that's considered your satiety hormone. So the hormone that says, we don't need to eat anymore. We have plenty of energy. And so if that hormone goes down, then you start to see those other changes. You start to see the metabolism slow down. You start to see the appetite increase. And so it's working against you. It's definitely pushing you more towards weight gain.
It's insane, man. It's insane. And, so let's talk about that. So this is a little off topic. Well, it is on topic, off topic. So I'm struggling with that right now. And I'm going to layer in like I get to a certain point for the past 4 years, which to me is 266, 267. Mm-hmm. My goal number is 250. I'm going to say it. And I was 220, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. I was 240. 240 I think is a good weight for me, but 250, I'm solid there. And I cannot get below 260. And I'm calories in, calories out. I'm increasing my everything, and my body's working against me.
Yeah.
The only thing I just keep telling myself is, yes, I see the weight. And yes, I'm lifting, by the way. I'm lifting like not as heavy as I used to because I'm getting older, but I'm definitely lifting I want to get to that heavy. I will get to that. That's like my next like few weeks. I will get there.
Yeah.
But my body's working against me. I know it is, which we'll talk about, I think, reason why I'm not losing weight in just a second. But
yeah, but I think you realize that, or you notice it if you really think about it, because even we were talking about this the other day, that if we're going to the gym more often, we're trying to make that more of a priority.
A 10-day streak.
You are a 10-day streak, but that you start to feel hungrier. You get more cravings because there were many, many weeks where we were on track. We were eating in just a routine schedule. We were eating really healthy. And then you get towards the end of the night and you're like, oh, I would love to have this. Or I'm craving this. And that's, you start to feel those cravings come back. It's 10
o'clock on Friday. And like, I'm literally like, I want a fried chicken sandwich after this. But like, I know that's coming. But I don't know, guys. So we struggle with this too. All I'm saying is, we struggle with this too. So, this is a great segue to the next question. So if we lost the weight, I don't know about y'all, but I usually get high when I lose weight. I'm like losing 5 pounds and 3 pounds and 2 pounds. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do more intense.
Well, I haven't even gotten to. I would say that I've maintained for years and years and years. But before residency, I was 20, 30 pounds, probably 20 pounds lighter than I was now, and I felt great at that weight. It wasn't just an aesthetic thing. It was like energy level and physically, and I felt great at that weight, and I just can't get back there.
I tell Emily all the time that she's gonna have to lose a GD pound. Yes, I do say that. Yes, I am Christian. Yes, I do cuss. I like a little weight on her, more cushion for the pushing, if you know what I mean. But I'm just being honest. She hates it, but this is how we are off camera. And I tell her, like, we got to be 100% ourselves. All right. So it is harder to, once you get through the highs and you're like, oh man, I'm getting compliments and I'm losing weight. And it's not about losing weight though. It's about how you're feeling. And you're like, oh, I got to stay on track. I got to stay on track. I got to stay on track. And then once you hit that goal and it's the maintenance, to me, it's like almost you wait all year for Christmas. We're big Christmasers here. But we kept our Christmas decorations up until March, I believe. Yes, we did. Who cares? Send us hate mail. It's the same thing for me. Like once you hit that goal and then you maintain it, it's like boring, So
I think it can be demoralizing for people.
Yeah, once you hit the goal, like
it can certainly contribute to mood disorders like depression for people who kind of cycle between weight. So if they lose the weight and gain it back, there is definitely the potential to feel defeated and depressed,
right? Because
you put so much effort into it that you feel like there's no way to prevent it from coming back, right?
And that's the thing that though studies have shown it's harder to maintain the weight loss versus to lose the weight. So anything to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we see that just with hormones, with the trends, with everything, with bariatric surgery, with diet and exercise, with medications. There's just this upward trajectory with weight gain. And the question is, how do we prevent that? How do we keep that from happening? I think that's a question that a lot of obesity medicine specialists, bariatric specialists are trying to tackle, because we're in a dangerous place in this country. Because if you think about it, obesity is not just a number. It's not just a BMI. It's the health issues that go along with that. It's the heart disease, the diabetes, the cancer risk, the sleep apnea, the lung, cardiopulmonary implications of obesity and severe obesity. And our healthcare dollars that we're spending towards that,
right.
the debt that's going towards healthcare spending.
But
And
but we talk about this like every episode, like it's always good of a glimpse, like why do you care? We're doing this, right? We're spending a lot of hours and energy into this, not for us, but for our mission, for our why. Why do you care about this so much?
I mean, I just want people to be empowered to make the right choices and decisions, to know what to do, because I think sometimes the how do I get there? And once I get there, what do I do?
Right.
I think I've made it kind of my life's journey, or that's just a big interest of mine. I've always loved nutrition. I've always loved exercise physiology. And so that's what I do outside of school, outside of work.
Yeah, but
that's
why?
always something that I've been interested in learning about. I've always struggled with maintaining a healthy weight. And I think that all of the knowledge that I've been able to build over the years, I want other people to feel empowered in that way as well.
Yeah. So ultimately you want to help people that struggle with some of the things that you have. So, all right. So we get into maintenance phase. So what are the dietary, like what do you recommend as far as diet? And let's just go through each individual section of just maintaining a healthy weight. So dietary.
Diet, there's not a specific diet that I think everyone should follow. And calling it a diet, I think, can be triggering to some too. You can call it a meal plan.
You know what Kanye West calls it?
What?
He calls it a live it.
A live it?
Because he doesn't want to die it. And I thought it was so brilliant. Say what you want about Kanye West, but at the end of the day, that was brilliant. I was like, you know what? I'm going to live it.
Yeah. And I think that it's not just one set, following a vegan diet or a vegetarian diet or keto, or, there's not a specific diet that I think is a one size fits all. It's more the meal plan and routine that you're going to be able to follow and you're going to stick to. And it should always be focusing on whole foods. So avoiding processed foods. It's good to focus on high protein and high fiber. If you're eating high protein, high fiber, and healthy fats, those are things that will help you to feel satiated. So make you feel fuller for longer, so that you're not feeling like you're needing to eat all of the excess calories. The biggest thing is to avoid processed foods, especially the high sugar processed carbohydrates that tend to kind of drive that addiction, that food addiction. That
food noise.
I think a lot of us, or at least for me, I know I've been through phases in my life where maybe I'd lost an appetite during a stressful life situation. And so I'd been able to completely cut out sugar or processed carbohydrates because I wasn't really thinking about food at the time. I was just so stressed out. And so I was able to focus on eating healthy foods. And then once you get 3 or 4 weeks into that eating pattern, you don't even crave the sugar anymore.
Yeah.
And then
a lot of people are the opposite though. Like I'm the opposite. Like usually if I'm stressful, I stress eat.
It can be a both. And I would say I do the same, but if it's a major life situation, if it's a breakup, if it's a big change, then
everybody deals with situations.
Yeah, everybody deals with stress differently.
That's how she does with it. But I don't know how y'all deal with it, but I eat Ben and Jerry's. Let's slam down some bacon cheeseburgers. Let's get it on. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But you're right. So
but I'm saying my point is that the longer that you go without those specific foods, the less you crave them. And so and then when you go back, if you have a piece of chocolate cake afterwards, then you start to have that craving again. And I'm not saying that you should demonize chocolate cake and you shouldn't eat it, but I'm saying if you go back to eating a lot of the highly palatable processed foods that have a lot of the added chemicals that are basically there to make you addicted to those foods, if you go back into those eating patterns, it's going to sometimes kind of take you down a spiral. And so you have to be cautious with the processed foods that you eat.
Right. But a lot of people heard this before, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this is not new information. This is not cutting edge here, right? But we'll get into that in a second. So there's a lot of trends out there about when to eat. Is it at night? Is it at morning? Talk more about that as a lifestyle. So yes, you got your food, stay away from processed foods. We know this, but what about the whole dietary timing?
I think the routine is most important. And it might not necessarily be the when, but if you're in a set routine and you stop eating at a certain time and you start eating at a certain time, and that's the same routine that you've been following during your weight loss, I think it's fine to continue that. It's when you're eating sporadically or there's a lot of mindless snacking that can become an issue. I think for people who have a tendency towards insulin resistance, like people with PCOS or people who have prediabetes or diabetes, there is this tendency for insulin resistance to be highest in the evening at nighttime. And so trying to eat your meals in a fashion where your calories are eaten maybe on the higher end earlier in the day when you're most active, and then tapering off the calories as the day goes on so that you're not eating all of your calories right before bed. When your insulin resistance is potentially highest, where you are storing more fat than burning energy.
That's brilliant. That's so brilliant. I didn't even think about that. We'll talk more about that probably at the end, about how we measure that or how we can measure that, because that's hard to understand for someone listening out there. Say, I don't know when my insulin levels spike or whatever. I don't know that. We'll talk more about that at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about food. We talked about when food. Now let's talk about activity. So what someone do to maintain this? And honestly, like I'd love to know your thoughts about while you're on this medication, like life after Ozempic, but what you should establish while doing it.
Yeah, I think exercise is probably the most important. And I think we see a lot of studies that show maybe the diet and the calorie deficit is most important from the dietary standpoint in the beginning when you're losing the weight. But when you're trying to maintain, I think really exercise is the most important part of your lifestyle. And so it's a combination of, a lot of times I'll refer to it as being a busybody. So people who are active, who are constantly moving. So it's not just that the exercise, it's not just exercising 30, 45 an hour
gym or whatever,
a day. It's the people that are constantly moving, maybe getting those 10,000 steps because they're walking from place to place. They're doing a lot of housework. They're not just sitting at a desk all day. The NEAT, so the non-exercise activity thermogenesis is what it stands for. So it's not necessarily just the exercise that you're doing, but it's everything else that you're doing in the day.
Really fast. Is that again NEAT?
Non-exercise activity thermogenesis, I believe is what it stands for. It's basically what I just said. So just not the exercise activity. It's more the what else you're doing throughout the day, not just
but you gotta slow it down, Emily MD. This is like second nature to you. To me, I'm like NEAT. Like first of all, you say that, and I'm just stuck on that acronym, and I'm like, wait a minute, and then I missed it. So yeah,
I'm just used to you not listening to me. I guess
is that what it is?
It's the husband ears. It's the selective
that's not
hearing.
the husband ears. Actually, I really, when it comes to these types of topics, I hang on every word you say. I have ADD really, really bad, but I guarantee you, people listening are probably like, wait a minute, let us know. Like, am I in the wrong, or is Emily in the wrong, or there's no wrong here? My ADD crowd will know what I'm talking about. Okay, so
that's I would say that's a big part of it, and then also weight training can make a huge difference. And we talk about when your body loses 10% of its initial body weight, we talk a lot about muscle weighing more than fat. And so if you're actually building muscle, if you're gaining weight in that way, you're kind of offsetting, I guess, that deficit, that weight deficit that your body's feeling, because you still have that muscle weight. And muscle does, if you have more muscle mass, it increases your basal metabolic rate. So your metabolism is higher at rest if you have more muscle.
Yeah.
And so if you're really working towards building muscle, it's not only helpful for your metabolism, helping you maintain weight loss, but it also is helping with bone health and your functionality, your functional status as you get older. So I think weight training, resistance training should be a staple.
Yeah. I say this, like, this is for my sisters out there, my PCOS gang. I know I'm not a PCOS, but listen, we're passionate about it. We have people in our family that struggle with this disease, and a lot of our listeners are PCOS. So, so I say to you guys is, a lot of you have, more testosterone, right? I'm looking at you to make sure, right? Androgen levels, is that what you're saying? And you have this ability to build more muscle than the average. So there's some, right? Or no? Is that wrong?
I think that you're probably simplifying things a little bit there, but
probably. All right, well, correct me.
Well, I think when you have a hormonal imbalance, it's not just a matter of having excess testosterone that it's going to make it easy for you to build muscle and to lean out. I think it's
I'm saying
more complex.
They're stronger and they have the ability to have the weight training. Or maybe I'm just so filtered because one of the people that I watch is has PCOS and she's a lifter. And maybe that's just where I'm getting my filtered knowledge from. So maybe that's not accurate. So anyway, all right. So we talk about physical activity. This is what I would say to folks. Like I didn't want to go to the gym. I was pissy this morning. I was in a bad mood. I didn't want to do that. I tell myself I try to go every single day now, which is a little bit excessive, but not really, because if I go 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. I went into the gym today. I did 10 minutes of Stairmaster, 5 more minutes of like cool down cardio, and then I just did one muscle group today for 15 minutes. I was there for 30 minutes. I came back. I'm glad I went because it made me feel good. I had these endorphins and I was in a better mood. So I just tell people just go to the gym or go to the physical activity. And even if it's 10 minutes, even if it's 15 minutes, just
that's
lift.
The hardest part. The hardest part
that's
is
what I'm telling
getting
you
yourself
because
to the
someone
gym.
has not been to the gym recently.
It's been a few days.
It's been more than a few days.
No, it hasn't. It's been a few days.
You've been trying to get to it, but you say you want to weight train. You say you want to weight train, but you haven't gotten to that point yet. But you said that you'll get there. And I said, like, we have weights here, like take 10, 15 minutes. If that's it. That's it. It's better than nothing. Would you agree with that? Yeah. All right. So the next thing is we talk about dietary, intermittent fasting, and then now let's talk about sleeping.
Sleep is definitely important. So making sure that you're getting not just quantity of sleep. So it's good to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night, but I think quality is important as well. So making sure that you're sleeping through the night and that it's consistent. So it's not just piecemeal, every few nights or so you get a good night's sleep. That definitely adds up. The deficits add up and it can impact your hormones. And so if you are sleep deprived, they've done studies to show that your ghrelin is elevated.
Ghrelin?
Especially in women. And so you can have increased appetite the following day. And you can end up eating more calories throughout the day.
Yeah. So for me, I feel like this is where I'm struggling because I'm not getting as much sleep. In fact, I think I posted it in our group recently around the amount of sleep that I'm getting. And I think I got 3 hours of sleep one night. And it's just weird. Like on Tuesdays, I get this really weird thing that I just wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm just ready to go. And my mind isn't turned off. So all you manic people with ADD like me, a million things to do, you just don't turn off. And so instead of just laying there and tossing and turning for the next 5 hours, I got up and started working and started doing something else. Right. Okay. So are there any ways that it can stop people from falling back into the old behavior? And I think it's hard because I think, and maybe that's your next question, but socially it's hard to do that too.
Yeah, I think behaviorally, socially, it's easy to fall back into old habits and old routines, especially if you use food as kind of a coping mechanism. I think it is really hard. I think that probably is the hardest part about it is just you have to have maybe a support system. You have to have structure. I think that's the biggest thing is fail safes to keep you from kind of falling back into those bad habits. I don't think it's a bad thing to
structure is so boring.
I know, but I don't think it's a bad thing to have fun once in a while and to enjoy yourself. But I think when it becomes a pattern, or if you're using it as a coping mechanism, that's when a reward, that's when it becomes a little bit more problematic. And that's where things like cognitive behavioral therapy, especially if you feel like your food intake, and especially if it's more kind of unhealthy food intake, if it's tied to depression or anxiety or stress, and if you have something like binge eating disorder, or even if you have a history of other disordered eating behaviors, I think it's good to have someone not only that you talk to in the past, but that you continue to talk to so that you can stay on top of that and it doesn't become an issue, because it can always creep back in.
Yeah.
And
these are things that you struggled with, and we talk about it a little bit on the show. I know people like watching us for the first time. You just get like a little insight into that.
I mean, for me, it's more, I would say it's more body dysmorphia. And I think people who have more obsessive compulsive tendencies, I wouldn't say I have full OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder, but I have more OCPD, so personality disorder, where I think it makes you fixate on things more. It makes you fixate on your body image or your diet or certain parts of your lifestyle. And so if you don't keep that in check, or if you don't have, if you feel like you're losing control with other aspects of your life, sometimes it makes you fall back into unhealthy habits, unhealthy routines. And so I think it's good to have someone hold you accountable that can kind of bring you back to your baseline.
Yeah.
In those situations.
So it's really hard though, and I think a lot of the, we read a lot of PCOS forums. We read a lot of other forums too that struggle with weight gain and gaining the weight back or whatever. And we know I'm a victim of this too. And socially, it's so hard to say no. Mm-hmm. So, I was reading this post today, and this poor young lady with PCOS was saying that her friends and family are not getting it. Mm-hmm. She has PCOS. She is struggling, and she's telling them, no, I can't eat dessert. I can't do this. I can't do it like you can because my body doesn't metabolize it the way you do.
Yeah.
And she's getting frustrated. And she's like, do I just get new friends? I don't want to get new friends. They're great friends, but they got to understand where I am. And so what do you say to someone like that?
I think it's really hard because there are even studies out now that show that your metabolic health is probably tied more to your friend group, the people that you spend time around, than it actually is to your genetics, which says a lot. You are who you hang out with. And I'm not saying you need to leave all of your friends in order to stay healthy, but I think having boundaries and sometimes you just have to set those boundaries and do it in a time frame when you're not going to Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving, when you know that there are going to be a lot of temptations, probably before that, saying, this is for my health, this is for my well-being. I just need you to support me. You don't have to follow the same lifestyle habits that I follow, but I need you to support me in my decision.
And respect my boundaries. And I'd be repetitive. Don't waver.
Mm-hmm.
They'll get it. Yeah. They'll get it.
And there are some other things you can do. I mean, if you go out to a restaurant, eating the bread or the crackers or the typical appetizers that are there, it actually a lot of times will make you eat more if you're eating bread or crackers, or if you're eating more of a simple carbohydrate. But if you eat lettuce or if you eat a salad first, you're more likely to get fuller faster and probably maybe not make healthier choices, but not eat as much. I
mean, honestly, studies have shown that it's supposed to make you hungrier. Mm-hmm. And then there's appetizers, there's chips and salsa at the Mexican restaurant, which, we haven't been to a Mexican restaurant in a long time. Cinco de Mayo was just recently. Yeah, we did not celebrate. And that's so sad. We actually had these huge tequila. Remember, we made a tequila, guys, out of a huge vase.
That was a couple years ago.
Yeah, a couple years ago with Patron and ginger beer. I made the best damn margarita, right? With a little bit of lime juice. I hate that little sweet, sour taste in your mouth after you're drinking a margarita.
Those were perfect. Those were good.
Perfect.
They were dangerous, though.
And I made a flower vase because we didn't have a vase. Anyway, that just popped in my head. We didn't celebrate this year, but we also we're drinking our own Kool-Aid. We have a mission to be. We want to practice what we preach, right? Mm-hmm. We just got a weight train, right? And mm-hmm. She looked at me angrily, but I want her to volley with me on camera.
I think it's hard, and I was thinking about this earlier. It is hard knowing what you're supposed to do. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but it makes it so more human because
You are a weight loss, gut, and hormone specialist, doctor, double board certified, functional medicine specialist. You teach people this all day. You see patients all day, and you struggle with this.
I do struggle with it,
and I want you to talk about it.
I think everybody is different in what exercise they find to be cathartic or to be a release. For me, doing cardio
100%
it's a mindless thing where I can kind of meditate and or listen to music that I want to listen to and just not think about anything.
And you crush it though. Like you have like 12 on the damn Stairmaster.
I don't just do like,
no, you don't.
I do high intensity cardio.
You're
and
intense.
that's what I feel like is a great stress relief for me. And then when I do weight training, I don't enjoy it because you have to me, I have to think more. It's harder and I have to think more. And I have to be like, how many reps have I done? How many, how many sets have I done?
That's totally my personality. You know me, I'm a Gemini.
And I know if I could stick to it, I would love it. And I think I feel great afterwards.
That's what I tell you.
And
all
I
the
did
time.
last week, I did a day of legs, a day of back and shoulders or back and chest. And I did a day of arms and then 3.
And she has this person who would be willing to train her, but she refuses. And when she trains with me, she can't sit down for a few days. But
as some people might expect, you're a little bit intense as a trainer. But I think it's good. I guess I'm saying do as I say, not as I do. But I do try to weight train, and it doesn't necessarily have to be heavy weightlifting. You could do body weight exercises, resistance bands.
And
at
we
home.
Have weights here.
People can even do chair exercises. So people who have arthritis, especially if they're recovering from an arthroplasty, if they have a knee replacement or hip replacement, I mean, you can start from anywhere. If you're doing chair exercises, or people who even older people who don't have any muscle mass and they're afraid or they're a little bit intimidated to do weight training. I think that's a good place to start. Resistance bands and chair exercises, standing up and down from a chair.
Which honestly, as you get older, more functional training is better. And one of my friends said this, and one of the studies they were listening to was, most people die from falling down. It does. I mean, there are statistics that show that if you break a bone and you end up in the hospital after a fall, that the mortality, I mean, there's a significant increase in mortality. 80%. Yeah, she told me that. So now, I'll have that the rest of my life. I can't erase that from my memory. Sometimes ignorant is bliss.
Well, my grandmother ended up.
That's the ignorance bliss situation for me.
Ended up having, falling and fracturing her hip and ending up in the hospital. And it was a downward falling too. Spiral.
I'm not saying that's why she passed, but that was a catalyst that led her to that specific spot. So, all right, it's time for the bonus. You stay to the end. So, all right. So you're losing weight. We talked about diet, the timing of eating, exercise, and sleep. What questions can you ask your provider to help you stay on track? And what specifics? You talked about insulin earlier. So PCOS patients, if you are listening, like talk to us about what questions do you ask your provider?
Yeah, I think you have to find the right provider. That's the ticket. You got to find the right one.
Emily's the right one.
Well, finding someone.
By the way, we're not promoting anything on the show when it comes to that. Not yet.
Finding somebody who has some training in motivational interviewing, because it should be a partnership. It should be a discussion where your doctor is able to kind of tease out where you're struggling. Why are you struggling? Helps you kind of get out of your own way. So helps you to figure out what things in your life you need to change or what you're motivated to change without telling you, this is what I want you to do and you have to do it. It's a less paternalistic way it's a better relationship with your healthcare provider. And they're just more of a backboard to help you kind of hit ideas off of, I would say. But I think also monitoring, having that accountability, vigilance is so important, being on alert that there is a potential that you're going to gain the weight back, and having somebody, or even having a set visit where you're going to, and I know it's triggering for some people to get on the scale, and you don't even necessarily have to get on the scale, but knowing that you're going into the doctor, getting your vitals checked, potentially getting blood work checked. I mean, there are things that they can check to make sure your cholesterol is still looking okay, your blood sugar, your insulin levels. sometimes inflammatory markers. It just depends on your provider and what kind of medical conditions you have. But there are some signs that might say things are starting to go in the wrong direction again. What can we do to get you back on track? And sometimes it is a matter of getting back on the medication. I know that's not necessarily what everybody wants to hear. But if you can get back on something like Wegovy or Zepbound, or if you have diabetes, Ozempic, or Mounjaro, I think that is a better alternative than to let things continue to spiral and then end up having to be on blood pressure medicine and cholesterol medicine and all of the other.
I feel like we all need help, though. I feel like we all need help, and there's some things like again, a PCOS patients listening, it's not your fault. It's not your fault, and it's so difficult to find advice and to get help that you need, And I think for people who struggle with food addiction or has tried every single diet underneath the sun, this really, really works. I feel like in our society and in American culture, I feel like we are predispositioned or pre-exposed to these types of things where, health wasn't a big thing. It's becoming more prevalent, but the obesity rate's rising and rising and rising. So
it's a product of the world that we live in now. The environmental exposures, the constant ads for Twinkies and Oreos and processed foods.
Well, I haven't seen a Twinkie commercial in years.
I know what I mean.
But I'm thinking like Hardee's,
it's at every fast food restaurants at every corner
now, and I ain't gonna get one. I'm gonna have my Greek yogurt with granola. I really want some fried food today. I don't know, something about it. But
ain't gonna happen. We
hold each other accountable,
your accountability partner,
and we keep each other on track. All right, Emily, take a stand.
My stand is that
look in the camera.
It's hard. I think
in the camera. I'm gonna get her looking in this camera.
Weight loss is hard, but maintaining weight loss is harder. And I think you've got to have the support system. You have to have the vigilance. You have to always be on high alert, unfortunately, but don't feel like you are weak if you ask for help. If you ask a provider for help, if you end up needing to go back on medication, or if you end up just staying on medication. I think if it's preventing disease, it's preventing illness, it's making you feel better, then you got to do what's right for you. And medicine, it should be individualized. It shouldn't be a one size fits all. Awesome. I guess that's my take home.
I like it. All right, guys, that's another episode of Susan Scrubs. A little health,
a little wealth,
and a lot of love. Until next time.
He's on the hustle, she's on the grind. There's no time to kill. We're saving lives and new deadlines, and there's some holes to fill. With a little health and a little wealth and a lot of love. That's a life that we live. Susan Scrubs.